What's up guys, Marc here. Welcome to a new anatomy lesson. Each of these mini lessons for artists cover a specific body part with the ultimate goal of helping you draw the entire human figure better. For more in-depth content, make sure you visit my QBrush store and consider joining my complete art education program, Art School for Digital Artists. If it's your first time shopping on QBrush, make sure you use my discount code to save 20% off your entire order. Also, follow me on Instagram for daily art updates. In today's episode, we'll take a look at the bones and muscles of the shoulder. Let's go. Alright, so in this first episode covering the muscles, we are going to start from the top, but not the head though, not yet. So we'll get to that a little bit later. But I chose a group of muscle that's pretty prominent, you know, in our physique. It's a little bit easier to tackle as well because there aren't that many muscles and that many bones involved. And of course, I'm talking about the shoulder girdle. So let's zoom in on this and learn a little bit more about the shoulder anatomy. There we go. So as I said, pretty simple. So we have the scapula, the clavicle, and the humerus. And it's on those bones that the majority of the muscles of the shoulder girdle is going to be attached. The first two muscles that we're going to take a look at are not really that important. So I wanted to include them in the video because, you know, they're part of our anatomy, but those are definitely not surface muscle. They're deep muscle and you'll probably never see them through your skin ever. So, you know, feel free to ignore those two. But the first one is called the subscapularis, and it's basically like a flat muscle that covers pretty much the complete underside of the scapula. Subscapularis. And so its origin is going to be right here in green, and that is going to be called the subscapular fossa. This is basically the entire underside of the scapula. And then it inserts right here at the head of the humerus, and that particular region is called the lesser tubercle. Now, the next muscle that we're going to take a look at is basically located on the top of the scapula, and that's going to be called the supraspinatus. Now, as for its origin, pretty simple, supraspinatus fossa, and that is going to insert on the greater tubercle of the humerus. Basically this region up here, this little bump where a lot of the tendons and a lot of the muscles are going to attach to. So if we take a look at it from the back, where we'll be able to see it maybe a little bit better, we have the supraspinatus fossa, so right here on top of it, and with the muscle added on, looks something like that. So as I said, pretty minor muscle. All right, next we have 4 more muscles to take a look at for the front of the shoulders. The first one is going to be another small one, but this one is definitely visible, and that is going to be the coracobrachialis right here. And this muscle is very obvious if you take a look at bodybuilders kind of hitting the front double bicep pose. Its origin is the coracoid process, which is going to be this little bit here that's kind of sticking out on the inside of the scapula in green right here. And it will insert at exactly the halfway point onto the inside of the humerus, so right about here. So if this humerus was complete, it would be about this tall or this long. As you can see here, the coracobrachialis attaches right at the halfway point. Now the last 3 muscles are definitely more prominent, and you'll probably know this one right here. So we have the pectoralis major. So this muscle is part of the shoulder girdle, but it's also, you know, clearly part of the torso muscle. So we'll take a look at that a little bit later, and especially, you know, cover the origin of the muscle because, well, we can't see it right now. But we are going to take a look at its insertion points, which is right here. So towards the front of the humerus, a little bit higher than the coracobrachialis. But more importantly, what we have to remember as artists is that when we draw it, it goes over the coracobrachialis. So the coracobrachialis is definitely more of an arm muscle, and the pectoralis major basically covers or goes over all of that. Now, the last muscle, and I lied because there's not 2 more, there's only 1 more, but basically it's the deltoid, so the main muscle of the shoulder. And in the front here, we're going to have the anterior head of the deltoid. So as far as its origin, well, it's going to be kind of the lateral third half-ish, you know, somewhere in between of the clavicle, and it will insert right below the insertion point basically of the pectoralis major, so right down here in front of the humerus. And then to complete the deltoid from the front, because we can also see this portion here from this angle, that is going to be the middle head of the deltoid. So pretty simple, it's sandwiched in the middle head. Now the origin of this one is a little bit different. So instead it attaches here at the acromion of the scapula, which is the tip of it pretty much. And as we can see right here, it attaches right below the pectoralis major and right below the anterior head of the deltoid. So from the front, this is pretty much it. Now moving to the back, since we already took a look at the supraspinatus, we're gonna skip over this one, and all the other muscles that that make up kind of like the back side of the shoulder girdle are gonna be pretty important because you'll be able to see them on most people that that are lean or on bodybuilders and or people that are really thin. So the first one that we're going to take a look at is called the teres minor. So it's one that's sandwiched between two others, but it's the one that has the deepest origin point. So we'll take a look at this one first. So its origin right here, the lateral border of the scapula, is where it begins, and it inserts at the greater tuberosity of the humerus, or basically the outside portion of the head of the humerus. Right there in red. Next one is going to be another teres. This time it's going to be the teres major. Now this one attaches at the inferior angle right here of the scapula, and it inserts on the inside of the humerus right here, right below the teres minor, at a location called the intertubercular groove of the humerus. So kind of a mouthful, but basically it's on the inside of the humerus, slightly below the head. Now, on top of those two and covering the majority of the scapula, we're going to have the infraspinatus. So the infraspinatus, the origin of it is called the infraspinatus fossa on the posterior surface of the scapula, right here in green. And then it will insert right here in red on the tip of the humerus, the greater tubercle of the humerus, just like that. So teres minor, teres major, infraspinatus, and then we have one last muscle to take a look at, the deltoid once again, but this time from the back view. And so the first head that we'll be able to see will be the posterior head of the deltoid. Now this particular head is going to attach right here onto the spine of the scapula, so this little bit that is kind of protruding, and it's going to insert right here close to the insertion point for all the other heads at about the halfway point of the humerus, a little bit higher than that. Then finally, what we've seen already, but the middle head for the deltoid, completing the shoulder from the back view here. And same thing again, its origin being the acromion here, so the tip of the scapula, we can see it a little bit better now. And inserting down here, slightly lower than the other two heads, but nonetheless on the outside of the humerus at about, again, the halfway point. So there you have it. So this completes the anatomy, the muscle anatomy, and the kind of like the bone structure of the shoulder girdle. Technically, you could also include the latissimus dorsi, which is the one of the bigger muscles in the back, but we'll tackle that one when we look at the back. So I decided to kind of leave it out. So anyways, really quickly, also by the way, as you saw in this particular demo here, I've painted all the different muscles, all the different components of the shoulders onto different layers in a Photoshop file, and this is something that I've kind of decided to start building along with this this mini series on anatomy. So right now I have the shoulder, but I'll basically be covering the entire body. And I thought that might be useful to some of you guys if you want to look at it a little bit more in depth, looking at the different muscles, enabling, disabling different layers to look at what it really looks like underneath and on the surface. So I've made it available to download. You can grab that in the top right corner of the screen right here. Of course, I'll have a link in the description below, but my plan obviously is to complete the entire body, the entire anatomy of the human body from head to toes. So it's going to take a while. It's going to be a lot of work. I'm spending a lot of time on this to make sure that it looks good. And so yeah, so for now you can grab it for a few bucks, and I'll keep updating the product. So it's just going to get more and more and more complete over time. And if you get it right now, the current price is never going to change. You get all the future updates for free. So I don't know exactly what the total is going to be, once I'm completely done with it, but definitely more than what it is right now. So yeah, if you're ever interested, right now would be a good time to check it out. All right, guys, this is going to be it for this episode. I hope this was helpful and that you learned a thing or two. Remember, practice makes perfect, and I'll see you in the next episode. Peace out.